Have you ever noticed how the apps on your phone seem to get better almost overnight? Or how these huge, complicated websites are built and updated without ever seeming to shut down? Well, today we're going to dive into the incredible story of how we build the software that runs our world. It's a journey from rigid, fragile plans to a constant, rapid flow of new stuff. Okay, let's kick things off with a quote that, if you've ever worked on a big project, this one's going to hit home. It perfectly captures the core problem, right? We're asked to build something that isn't fully understood against a deadline that is absolutely set in stone. This one sentence, it's the source of so much pain and, as we're about to see, so much failure.
And that really brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. Why is it so incredibly hard to get complex software projects right? You'd think with all our modern tools and planning, we would have mastered this by now. But the truth is, the bigger and more ambitious the project, the more likely it is to fall apart.
To really get why, we have to start by looking at the old way of doing things. It's what I like to call the project failure paradox. It's a process that looks totally logical on paper, but in the real world, it's almost perfectly designed to fail.
This is the classic waterfall model, and you can see why it gets that name. It's a linear, one-way street. You start by trying to figure out everything the customer could possibly want right up front. Then you design the entire system based on that. Only after all that's done does the actual building start. And testing? Oh, that gets saved for the very end, right before you ship it. Each step is this massive phase that has to be 100% complete before the next one can even begin.
So here's the paradox. This waterfall method, it seems so orderly, so responsible. It feels like you're playing it safe by planning everything out. But in reality, that total rigidity is the single biggest risk you can take. And it creates just a tremendous amount of waste. And we're not just talking about a vague idea of waste. We can actually name it. You've got partially done work, like huge design documents that sit on a shelf and are never used. You have extra features that were built based on a guess someone made a year ago. Then there's all the waiting and delays as one team slowly hands off a mountain of work to the next. And here's the real killer: defects found late. When you wait until the very, very end to test everything, a tiny bug can turn into a complete catastrophe that costs a fortune to fix. All of this is waste. Wasted time, wasted money, and honestly, wasted passion. And yeah, the cost is very, very real. Even when teams try to be smart and build in safety time to their estimates, these traditionally managed projects went over budget by more than 16% on average. That is a staggering amount of inefficiency. It just proves that the old method of adding padding to your estimates doesn't fix the real problem.
So the system was just broken. All this pressure, these repeated failures, it all led to a breaking point. And in 2001, a group of software developers got together in the mountains of Utah and wrote what they called a manifesto for a new way to work. And this shows the shift in thinking perfectly. They weren't saying the things on the right have zero value. They were saying the things on the left are more valuable. So it's better to have a great team talking to each other than to have a perfect, rigid process. It's better to have a small, simple piece of working software than a 1,000-page document describing it. And most important of all, it's better to respond to change than to just blindly follow a plan that's probably already wrong. This very first principle of their manifesto just cuts right to the heart of it. The goal isn't just to finish the project anymore. The goal is to make the customer happy by giving them things they can actually use. Not in a year, but now, and then again next week, and the week after that.
Okay, so that's the big idea, the philosophy. But how does it actually work day to day? Let's take a look at how this manifesto turns from a set of values into a concrete way of working.
The secret ingredient is the iteration. Instead of one giant year-long project, you slice the work into these small, consistent cycles. An iteration is usually just a couple of weeks long. And the goal for every single one of those cycles is to produce a small, complete, and actually working slice of the final product.
So building something like a social media app might look kind of like this. After the first 2 weeks, you have a login screen. It works. You can type in a username and password. It's not the whole app, of course, but it's real. You can show it to people, get feedback, and adjust your plan. Then in the next 2 weeks, you add profiles. Then you add connections. Each little step delivers real value, and this is the key. It gives you a chance to learn and change course before you've gone way too far down the wrong path. So how do you plan this kind of work? Well, instead of those massive requirement documents, Agile teams use user stories. They're just simple, plain English descriptions of a feature from the perspective of the person who's going to use it. The team then estimates the effort using something called story points. It's not about hours or days, it's just a simple way of saying, okay, this undo feature feels like a 3 in terms of complexity, but this save game feature, that's much bigger.
That's an 8. This lets them flexibly pull in the most important work for the next iteration, always focused on what gives the customer the most bang for their buck.
This new agile way of planning and building was a massive leap forward, but there was still one huge bottleneck: that painful, risky process of actually getting the finished code out to the world. So the next evolution was all about automating that entire path.
It all starts with something called continuous integration, or CI. So instead of developers working alone for weeks and then trying to smash all their code together at the end, which was often called merge hell, they now merge their small changes into a shared place many times a day.
And every single time a developer commits a change, it kicks off this automated pipeline. The system is automatically built from scratch, and a whole bunch of tests are run against it. If anything breaks, the team finds out immediately. And if everything passes, that change can be automatically deployed straight into the live product, ready for users in minutes.
And that gets us to the most important point of all. By making changes tiny and deploying them constantly through a safe, automated pipeline, you completely transform the release process. It's no longer this terrifying, all-hands-on-deck, weekend-long event. It becomes routine, it becomes predictable, it becomes boring. And in this world, boring is absolutely beautiful.
Okay, so let's pull all of this together. What does this new world of making software actually look like? What are the new rules of the game? And this really just sums it all up, doesn't it? We've moved from these massive, high-risk, big-bang releases once a year to a continuous flow of small improvements. We've gone from a world where change is the enemy to one where we actually welcome it. Instead of blindly following a plan, we learn and we adapt. And instead of a culture that's paralyzed by a fear of failure, we create the safety to experiment, knowing that our automated systems are there to catch us if we stumble.
So why does any of this matter to you, someone who just uses this stuff? Well, it means the apps on your phone get new features and fixes every week, not once a year. It means when you complain about a bug or suggest a feature, a company can actually listen and ship a fix in a few days. Quality isn't something they check for at the end, it's built in from the very first line of code. And all of this put together just means that innovation can happen at a pace that was basically unimaginable just a decade ago.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. In the old world, a project had a very clear endpoint. It was finished. But in this new world of continuous delivery and constant improvement, what does it even mean for a software project to be finished? Maybe the answer is it isn't. And maybe that's the whole point.